Welcome to I Hate James Dobson. We're all born naked and the rest is candy. That's a reference you'll understand like an hour from now.
Okay, great.
Welcome to I Hate James Dobson. My name is Jake, and I'm a former evangelical turned queer sex therapist. I can't do the show by myself, just me, a little gay elf. So I opened up my prayer book and called up my best friend named Brooke.
Well, that was so beautiful.
Hi, Brooke.
You're just a little poet.
We're doing poems now.
I love it.
We'll see how long this lasts.
That was really great. I feel like I should have written a poem about you.
You should have. I'm offended that you didn't.
Remember when I wrote you that poem that was like, Jake, there are they.
Brooke, happy Pride.
Thank you so much. Happy Pride to you. What are your Pride plans?
Well, when this episode comes out, I will have just gotten back from seeing family, which when I go visit my family in Maryland, it does feel like the queer population of the town increases by 200% just by me being there.
Yep.
In Chicago, we have Pride Fest and then the Pride Parade, which are separate weekends. The Pride Fest is that's the vendors, that's the musical acts. That's the one I'm going to go to.
Okay.
I marched in the Pride Parade the past couple years, and I don't feel the need to do that again right now.
Nah.
What are your Pride plans?
Nothing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, can't wait. Oh, but listen, I asked you to save a date, and then I told you to cancel the date.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to tell you what this all is and what's going on.
Okay.
Originally, I was like, save this date because at Rooftop Cinema Club, which is so fun, they were doing a double feature of Tu Wong Fu and Rocky Horror Picture Show.
That's incredible.
And I was like, we have to go to that. That's so gay and so fun. But then wanted to hang out, and we've been trying to hang out for like 3 years.
Oh.
And that was the only day they could do. And I was like, God damn it. And then I was like, fine. But then they couldn't do that day anymore. So then I was like, wait, we should go to this. I'm going to go buy the tickets right now. But then another hurdle. The tickets are like $5 billion.
Oh my gosh.
They're not really, but they are like...
It feels like it.
A lot more than you end up wanting to spend to see a movie that you can just rent, right? So then I was like, you know what? Forget all of this. Because I'm going to go see Dirty Dancing at Rooftop Cinema Club later. So I was like, forget all this. But what I would like to do is still have you save the date, and we'll go do something else gay.
Fabulous.
Maybe we'll go to your house and watch Tu Wong Fu.
My cats would love that.
I would love to meet your cats. So save that date.
Brooke, what's the queerest thing about Chicago?
The bean.
The bean.
Chicago's pretty queer.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
I believe, if I have my history correct, that Chicago has the first official gay neighborhood in the United States.
Boys Town?
Mm-hmm.
Andersonville's pretty queer. The bean is come on, the bean's just queer.
Yes. I find that to be a very funny answer.
I don't know. I've had some fun nights. Like you can have a variety of different types of queer experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Subject change. I'd like to give a shout out to not Kevin, but not Kevin, but to your other brother, Tyler.
Tyler!
Because Tyler told Jake that I'm not being fed enough and that I need more real food. And now I am regretting that we didn't get that pizza.
Every time I mention that I'm recording the podcast, Tyler makes it a point to say that I have to give Brooke real food.
Yeah. Well, he's right.
I'm down.
I know, but I like to make it sound like you're saying no.
No, you can't eat.
I just felt like maybe it was too decadent to get a pizza. It feels wild.
I am going to give an additional shout out to Tyler, who just graduated high school.
Tyler, congratulations. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Did you go?
By the time this comes out, yeah. It's next week.
Good job, Tyler. That's a big achievement.
Yeah.
Everybody say congratulations to Tyler.
Congrats, Tyler. Woo!
Yay. I cannot put down this fidget.
Great. Oh, you got a different one. You got an orange one.
No, this is the one I've been playing with. Jake has a box of fidgets in their office that is for children and me. And I discovered it, and I picked one as a prize, and I'm stealing it. This was supposed to be my prize after we recorded this podcast, but I stole a different one to be my prize. All right, I'm stalling.
And now it's time for Brooke's Books, the part of the show where Brooke comes out to talk about books.
Books are made of paper and you turn the pages and it's really fun. You can read them, you can use them to prop up your air conditioner. You can do whatever you want with books. Wasn't that great?
That was incredible.
Oh, I just got a text saying I got paid. Everything's coming up, Brooke. Okay, I'm using Storygraph to go back and look at what I've been doing. I want everyone to know I am at 28 books.
That's more than when you texted me yesterday.
Yeah, because I read a whole book today.
Wow.
It hasn't been that fun lately, and that's going to change because I'm going on 6 vacations, as everyone knows, because I keep talking about it. The first one is Friday.
Wow.
I'm only packing fun books for my vacations, but lately I've been reading a lot of like work kind of books, so that's kind of sucky. Oh, I finished a bunch of books that I was reading. Karina lent me a book of poetry about the 1919 Chicago riots.
Ooh.
By someone whose last name is Ewing, but now I can't remember her first name. Beep. Editing Jake here. Her name was
Eve
Ewing. And that was really good. And I think it was just called 1919. I'm still reading the spider books. They're so good. Children of Ruin, which is the second book, I think actually was maybe one of the best books I've ever read in my life.
Wow.
It was so good. And I just talked to my friend who's in the middle of it, and he was like, and I was like, I know. I am a grief therapist, and I read a lot of grief books, and I made an executive decision this week. I don't need to read anymore.
I mean, fair.
Like, I get it. I'm good at it. I'm a fully trained grief therapist now.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not saying there's not more to learn in life, but I am saying I got the basics.
You can only do so much work stuff.
Yeah, and I was reading, so Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and then eventually this grief guy named David Kessler, who's nice, her book, which is On Death and Dying, which is fabulous. Then they wrote a book called On Grief and Grieving, which is where the stages come in that everyone knows about, which are complicated and whatever. That book's like pretty good. And then they wrote this one, which obviously should be called On Life and Living, but instead they called it Life Lessons.
Okay.
I was like, you guys, it's right there.
You've got a theme going.
And they're like, they match, they look good on a bookshelf, like they go together. I'm like, why would you mess it up like that? So that was annoying. I finished that one today, and I gotta tell you, it made me beg the question of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who I really love. Were you a Republican? I wondered that at one point. Because it's a little bootstrappy.
Interesting.
And it's also a little live, love, laughy. Like, it's like, oh, just have fun and be positive and, you know, that kind of shit. But then the big problem is, like, it gets real gaudy. G-O-D-Y.
Yeah.
And it's not framed that way. It's not like this is going to be a spiritual book.
It's interesting that it's not the dying one. The dying book.
No, because she's a doctor. She's a scientist. She's very pragmatic. I have been wanting to like write a movie about her. She's wild. She was a triplet, and she had children named Ken and Barbie. And she just had wild experiences.
Work.
And she was doing like death research as a woman in the 60s, which is cool.
Yeah.
So like she was very cool, but then she had like a stroke or 2 strokes or I don't know, something. And then she stayed alive for a long time after. But I think then she got a little gaudy and she got a little cantankerous. And there was one part, I mean, it just kind of wilds out at some point. There was one part where she was like, I don't like the term self-care because it makes me think of a woman masturbating. And I was like, oh, Elizabeth. I would recommend On Death and Dying for sure. I would kind of recommend On Grief and Grieving, but really it's just going to be like, grief is hard. And then I would maybe not recommend Life Lessons. I'm just going to have to call on Life and Living because that just feels so blatantly.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? So that's what I've been reading. But I need more fun books. So let me tell you what's coming up.
Yes.
Okay. 6 vacations. I have packed for all 6 of my vacations.
Beautiful.
And I have a book for each one. And so the first one I'm going on this weekend, I'm taking a book called The Golden Mean, which I think is about, it's a retelling of Alexander the Great, but gay.
I mean, I don't think we need to retell the story, but gay, but sure.
Yeah, it's something and then gay. And it's going to be the next Jacob Tierney project, is the person who did Heated Rivalry. So reading that as I traipse through Canada this weekend.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Then the next book I'm reading when I go to I shouldn't tell everyone where I'm going. When I go to they're not going to follow me to St. Louis. I'm going to St. Louis at some point, and I'm going to be taking a train there, and I'm reading a book called The Elsewhere Express, which takes place on a train.
That's cool.
Themes. And that was recommended to me by a client. I don't know what it's about, except that it's sort of metaphorical trains. I think it's like trains of thought, but the book is very pretty. And then the next vacation I'm going on to Michigan for a pool party. I'm taking a book called Hello Beautiful, which was written by
Anne Napolitano.
And that was recommended to me by a friend, and I have no idea what it's about, but it looks summery and good, so that's it.
Fab.
Those are my books. This has been Brooke's Books. You got to hear about what I'm reading. You can follow me on Storygraph and watch me click off the books I read.
Tune in next time to hear Brooke say...
Books are...
That's it. Perfect.
Yeah, just say books. What are you reading?
I'm watching Adventure Time for the first time with boyfriend.
Oh. Do you know what I'm watching for the first time? You'll have to include this because I want to hear everyone's thoughts. Mad Men.
Oh.
Which I never watched at all when it was originally out 1,000 years ago. And I tried to watch it once or twice in the past, and I was like, oh, boring. And then for some reason, I was like, actually, that kind of does sound good. And I am so into it.
Interesting.
I wasn't feeling well this weekend, and I watched, like, all of it. It's
amazing.
It's very good. And there's some really kind of subversive humor that I like in it. And I also, with shows like that, I like to play What's the Diagnosis? And so I diagnosed all the characters, and then I looked it up, and I was right. Like, everyone agrees, like, these are the diagnoses for everybody. And I was like,
and that's why you passed your test.
That's why I passed my test. So if you are watching Mad Men or you want to talk about Mad Men, let me know. They probably should have made it 6 tight seasons because it gets a little, there's some like funky stuff that goes on at one point where I'm like, they're trying to wrap that up. But anyway, it's very good. I haven't finished it. I have like 4 more episodes. It'll be over by the time this airs, though. This has been great. Have a wonderful night. And I will see you next time we record.
We have a Patreon and merch. Go check it out. Or don't. I'm not your dad.
Where can you find our merch?
You can find everything on IHateJamesDobson.com, or you can see our full store at IHateJamesDobson.printful.me. M-E.
Wait. We have an actual website?
Yes. It's mentioned every episode.
I wish everyone could have seen Jake's face. No, I mean, I've seen it. I just kind of forgot. I always just look at everything through Instagram. Oh, I bet it's good.
In our last episode, we finished our discussion of James Dobson's original Focus on the Family film series from 1978, and thank Dob it's done. Unfortunately, we are not done hearing Dobson spew his bullshit. But thankfully, Dobson is more of a background character in our episode today. It is officially Pride Month, and I want to talk about gay shit.
Yeah!
Specifically, we will be talking about one gay man deeply involved in the story of Focus on the Family. Brooke, today we are talking about the story of a man named John Paulk, and we will be using this videotape as the base for our discussion. Video 4 of 11 of Bringing Up Boys, the film series.
Oh my god. Wait, what? I thought we'd gone through all this hell. Did you buy all 11 videos?
Yes, I did.
Who is that on the cover?
I don't know.
Just a boy. Is there a different boy on every cover?
Yes.
That's the gayest thing I've ever heard.
He turned it into 11 movies.
Is it just like the thing we just went through with the lectures?
Pretty much.
He has 11 videos of how to bring up boys?
Yes.
I don't want to do this.
Too bad we're doing it. The video we're talking about today is called The Origins of Homosexuality, released in 2002.
God, no. The origins.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be summer camp again?
Oh, everyone jerking off together?
Everyone's gay because of camp.
There's surprisingly little jerking off in this episode. A little bit of background about this film. It has been 20 years since our last Dobson tape. In that time, Dobson really became jazz hands James Dobson. Focus on the family blossomed like a corpse flower, taking over Colorado Springs. Dobson got his political ins, including with presidents, and at this point he had already helped found the Family Research Councils, the Alliance Defending Freedom, and he had inspired Brooke's favorite person, Michael Ferris, to found the HSLDA, making homeschooling a culture war issue.
I hate Michael Ferris.
And of course, since last we saw him, Dobson had indeed interviewed Ted Bundy.
Wait, what? He did?
Yeah, shocking. But the world had changed too. There are 3 key pieces of history, I think, that most inform evangelical culture, at least as it relates to our conversation today. Firstly, the AIDS epidemic.
Oh, yeah.
It brought queer civil rights to the forefront of the cultural conversation, and entrenched bigotry by giving dickheads like Dobson something that demonstrated the danger and degeneracy among the dick-sucking denizens. Second, the Columbine shooting. We've mentioned it before, but it cannot be overstated how much the narratives around that shooting informed evangelical culture, especially how evangelicals ran with the false narrative of Rachel Scott, a victim of the shooting who, in this myth, was asked, "Do you believe in God?" and then shot when she said yes. Not only did they make an industry valorizing teenage school shooting victims, they also created the modern archetype of the Christian martyr in America. They cannot get over the idea that one day they will be the oppressed and finally feel righteous for being fucking assholes. This was also a big catalyst for homeschooling. Kids weren't safe at a public school. And thirdly, 9/11.
Oh my God.
While I don't remember it since I was 3, I hear that everyone lost their goddamn minds. And in that fear and reflexive circling of the wagons, ideologies of high control, like Dobson's, thrive. Mm-hmm. We see traces of all 3 of those events in our first clip, and this is how Dobson starts this video.
Now, today we want to take this concept just a little further and talk about a very serious subject. We want to talk about the prevention and treatment of homosexuality in boys. What a very, very important topic, and one that parents are very nervous about, very anxious about it, because they fear
that guy's wearing an AIDS ribbon.
Their sons and daughters will become gay or lesbian. And why wouldn't they fear it? Because suddenly those images are everywhere, and very carefully programmed images are presented throughout the culture and done for a purpose. And now, of course, it's in the schools. Do you understand that? That is the most offensive and egregious thing I can think of. Children are the stem cells of culture. If you can capture and hold the minds of young children and then provide the right environment for them, you can grow them into almost anything you want. So I saw a video the other day of children in Afghanistan. They're teaching those little children to be hateful and to kill when they're 6, 7, 8 years of age. Well, they grow up to have terrorist attitudes because they are stem cells. They're malleable. You can do with them what you want. That's why there is such a struggle for the control of the hearts and minds of kids.
This is a torture. First, I want to talk about the set, which is more subtle and less subtle than the...
Less chalkboard.
Less chalkboard, but he built a background of things boys might like.
Yes.
Like a rocking horse. Everything's blue.
There's a bicycle.
Yeah. Sports things.
There's a curtain. Now there's a banner that says Bringing Up Boys on it.
With a boy on it. Yep. Okay, so kids are stem cells. I remember this now. I remember that thing about Afghanistan from when we did this before.
Also, I'm really glad you caught it. One of the people in the room in the audience has an AIDS red ribbon on.
That's so confusing.
It's wild to me. It's also very rich for James Dobson to warn people about the dangers of indoctrinating kids.
Yeah, for real.
Dobson takes the first, 20 minutes of this video to warn about the gay agenda. He plays a clip of a teacher talking to kids. He holds up a book like Jesse's Dream Skirt that says it's okay for a boy to wear a dress. The horror! And he spends a great deal of time talking about how being gay isn't genetic. So genetics were an important part of the cultural conversation at this time. Briefly, things like DNA evidence were used for the very first time in the court system in the United States in 1983. The project to map the human genome began in 1990 and was finished in 2003, so 1 year after this movie came out. And the search for the gay gene was also very relevant at this time. Why are people gay is an interesting and complicated question, but it's in their DNA or they're born that way kind of became the cultural shorthand for, I don't know, but you can't change it. Many people, though, Dobson included, took that to mean it's in the DNA and we can prove it. And then when you couldn't find one specific single gene to show why someone is gay, Dobson and others took a victory lap. If it's not in the DNA, then you weren't born this way, and therefore it's not a fixed characteristic that can be changed. They argue, at least. There are so many leaps in logic there, but that's basically their argument. And a lot of nonsense that we will talk about today and next time stems from this narrative.
They now are willing to admit there is no evidence of homosexuality being genetic. But it doesn't matter because the damage has been done. The American people have been told this, and they have believed it, and that is influencing policy. Now, why was there such an effort to say that black is white and green is brown and that everything that looks one way is actually another? Why did they work so hard on that? Why was the media doing this? It's to link it to the civil rights movement, see, and to link it to race, for example, which opens the door to all of the affirmative action things. And the whole attitude toward homosexuality was linked to this issue. Nevertheless, it is baloney. It's just baloney. Think about it for a minute. If it were biological, you would not have epidemics that occur. See, you would have a constancy of homosexuality across time and cultures. And yet, as we know, there are times when homosexuality flourishes, such as in Sodom and Gomorrah's time, or ancient Greece, or as the Apostle Paul wrote about in Romans 1, a time in Rome when men and women burned with lust for each other. See, there are times when it flourishes. And you wouldn't have that if it were genetic. And finally, if it were genetic, then it would be immutable, unchanging. You would not be able to treat it. No one could ever come out of homosexuality. And it would be sealed from birth, which is what they try to tell us. The truth of the matter is there are tens of thousands of people who have come out of homosexuality.
There are tens of thousands of people who have felt like it was safer to pretend that they had come out of homosexuality.
Correct.
Also, yes, of course there were times where things flourished and things did not flourish based on the environment and the safety of the environment. Homosexuality in Chicago, I guess, is probably flourishing today compared to in 1930 in Chicago. You know what I mean?
But it's not because the amount of queer people has fundamentally changed.
Correct.
It's just that people are more open about it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find interesting about that clip, though, is that this clearly isn't just a scientific question to Mr. Dabadook.
You're such an asshole.
A supposed increase in prevalence of being gay becomes an epidemic. You could treat it, and the political angle is clear. Dobson says the focus on the gay gene is meant to connect queer identity to civil rights, something he flat out rejects. If it can be cured, you don't need rights. You just need to pray harder. You need to go to therapy more. And to that end, I think conversion therapy is best understood not as a clinical practice. Obviously, no clinician worth their fucking salt would believe or advocate for conversion therapy. No, conversion therapy is a political tool. That's the prologue to this video. The rest of this video is Dobson bringing up two men who supposedly successfully cured their homosexuality. a guy named Mike Haley, who we will only briefly discuss, and the subject of our episode today, one Mr. John Paulk. So John's story, as told on this tape, is exactly what you think it would be for a self-proclaimed ex-gay. His dad wasn't nurturing, his parents divorced, he got really close to his mom, he felt different from other kids, and because he saw his parents getting married and divorced a number of times, he developed a fear of men leaving.
So on my 18th birthday, a group of friends took me to a gay bar and I was seduced into homosexuality. And I say seduced into it because it was very fearful for me, but as I look back, I felt there were no other options. You know, often we say that homosexuality is a choice. And I think that's partially right, but partially wrong. As people are developing, they do not choose their feelings. As a matter of fact, many try to reject these feelings, especially if they grow up with Christian values. They try to reject them, they know they're wrong, they put them off. Now that wasn't my case, but who wants to feel different from everybody else? At the same time, you know there is something innately wrong about this kind of behavior because God's stamp of imprinting is in there somewhere.
I mean, so far he's making a good case for us.
So he was seduced into homosexuality. He was addicted to that way of life. He was a sex worker who did drugs. But don't fear, good Christian reader, because John overcame that lifestyle.
Yeah, and if you run into him in the men's room, you can do whatever you want.
Put a pin in that.
Oh, shit.
Really, homosexuality is very easily explained. And it has so much to do with the gender identity development that is arrested that doesn't take place. I tried to take my life when I was 24, not because I wanted to die, but I wanted to be rescued. I wanted someone to reach into my life and change it and make it better. And it was at this time when a couple befriended me as I was going to college, and we developed a long-term relationship, and one thing led to another, and Christ was introduced to me. And the reason I received Christ is because he was the symbol of a man who would never leave. He could never be chased away. He could never be pushed out. My behavior, my appearance, my mannerisms did not alarm him. He wasn't repelled by me. I would walk down one side of the street. He would not be afraid to walk near me. He was there. He loved me. And Jesus became the father that I never had. And of course, I still felt isolated. And I had to move from my home in Ohio all the way to California. This was in 1987, to find help to come out of this. And as the years went by and I began the very difficult struggle out of homosexuality with all these feelings, clearly understanding at this point that I was not born or made this way, that sometimes I would be so tempted to go back to homosexuality. The only thing that would keep me from it was that I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that the Bible was true. I just knew it was true. No matter what my feelings told me, my feelings were wrong and they lied to me.
I mean, I've been joking around, but that just made me really sad.
My feelings were wrong, and they lied to me.
That made me really sad because there's Christianity, but also, like, as soon as he said 1987, I was like, yeah, I mean, that was a terrifying time for gay men specifically, right? The AIDS epidemic, but also just the way people talked about it and viewed it. And I just read something in one of those books I read about, like, people wouldn't even want to touch the dead bodies and put them in body bags, right? Yeah. Like, it was a horrific time. So not only was it against maybe your religion, but it was also like, how am I going to function in this world?
Yeah, I mean, that's why it was such a huge deal when Princess Diana physically touched people who had contracted AIDS. John left the homosexual lifestyle, and after this, he'd met a woman who had, quote, left lesbianism, I guess. At the time of filming, they'd been married for 10 years and had 2 sons together. But this is not a perfect story. You see, in the year 2000, John was photographed at a gay bar in DC called Mr. P's.
No, it's not called Mr. P's.
This is even addressed in these videos.
It is? He got tempted by Satan.
Something like that. Got tempted by dick.
You went to Mr. P's. Was he already working for Dobby at this point?
Yeah.
When he got caught?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, okay.
John, I think we must tell our friends about your failure a year or two ago. And how it happened. You never have gone back into the homosexual life. You've never had sex outside of marriage. But there was something inside. Explain what happened very, very quickly.
Yeah, a little over a year ago, my work here at Focus had become so stressful. As you can imagine, we're in the forefront of the media. When you've been on the cover of Newsweek magazine, you walk in the grocery store, and there you are, and your parents see it, and your friends from high school see it, and the headline is Gay for Life, and you feel like hiding under a rock, and you're being attacked. Well, I had come to the place in my ministry where I felt like I could not be vulnerable anymore. Because we're so disbelieved, I felt like I had to have my act totally together, that I couldn't struggle with homosexuality, that I couldn't be tempted, so I pushed those temptations and struggles underground. And I didn't talk about them anymore. And when I was in Washington, D.C. on a trip for Focus, my temptation and my curiosity got the best of me, and that rebellious spirit crawled up in me, and I went into a homosexual bar. And I thought, I have not even been tempted to do this for 15 years. Why am I here? And as I sat on this bar stool, I started talking to another man who I noticed had a wedding ring on. And I said, why are you here? You're married. He goes, well, you're married too. And I started wanting to minister to this guy, but I thought, well, this is not exactly the appropriate venue to minister because I've ruined my witness. But in God's sovereignty, because I am so recognizable, someone spotted me in there and, of course, blasted it all over the media. And what happened was God took me through a very healing journey of cleansing and repentance and forgiveness and discipline.
And brokenness.
And really, I have to say at this point, you never realize how much your wife loves you until you go through something so difficult. And to see Christians not sugarcoat things, but to say, in the midst of this, we need to get you counseling, we will give you support, you will be accountable. I am a better man today than I ever was before, and I think it's good because people have to see us, that we are vulnerable, all of us, as Christians, but then we can go on after making a mistake.
Ooh, what a dig. How do I get out of this? And brokenness.
When I write these episodes, by the time I'm done, I basically watch these clips like 5 times. And something that I didn't clock right away but became increasingly obvious to me with every subsequent rewatch is that this is Dobson publicly shaming this man. Go atone for your sins, go tell all the people how bad you were. You're not hating yourself enough. Let me add an extra dig into that.
I even caught it when Dobson says, tell them very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't want to spend too much time on this, but we need to hear about the bad thing you did. It's like his spanking.
Yes. I think this is a type of discipline.
Good job.
Brooke, John Paulk was introduced in this clip as the manager of homosexuality and gender department at Focus on the Family, which is a fake title.
We say it again.
The manager of homosexuality and gender department.
Manager of homosexuality is the gayest title I've ever heard. I want to go to that pageant.
You might be interested in another title of his, though. John Paulk founded Love One Out.
And he was trying to love one out at Mr. P's. Wait, Jake, I cannot rest until you tell me that John Paulk gave all this up and went on to become like an award-winning drag queen.
We'll talk about it. This is the story of John Paulk. I'm weaving a narrative.
I know, but I really need to know that it ends with us. All right, tell me more about the manager of homosexuality.
He founded Love One Out in 1998. Love One Out.
You're never going to get me to the end of this episode if you keep saying Love One Out.
W-O-N.
I know, but I can't ever hear it in any other context than you're going to go Love One Out.
We're going to Jimmy R. Dobson. Love One Out, alongside Exodus International, was the preeminent ex-gay ministry. As part of the ministry, John Paulk and others would go around from town to town speaking about the hope for deliverance from homosexuality. Perhaps obviously they really pushed conversion therapy as part of this. And it's hard to overstate how much Paulk himself was the figurehead and the icon of the ex-gay movement. He and his definitely not a lesbian wife were pictured on the cover of Newsweek magazine.
Oh my God. Gay for life?
In addition to appearing on the cover of Newsweek magazine promoting conversion therapy, they also appeared on The Jerry Springer Show.
Of course they did.
The Oprah Show, and 60 Minutes.
Look at her in her floral dress instead of her ice hockey.
Embracing her inner femininity.
Yep.
Because this style of conversion therapy is all about making you conform to an idea of gender roles. One of the things that strikes me about the John Paulk story here is how scripted it is. It's true without being honest, right? These are facts that largely did happen in his life, but the deeper truth underneath that and who he is completely obscured. And audiences, especially evangelical audiences, ate that shit up.
Mm-hmm.
This is the story of John Paulk in the Bringing Up Boys tapes, right? He was gay, then he left the homosexual lifestyle, and I was a good Christian man, leaving this incident in DC aside.
Yeah, what happens at Mr. P's stays at Mr. P's. Got that.
There are some bits and pieces missing from this story as told in the Bringing Up Boys tapes.
Did you deep dive him?
Oh, Brooke, we aren't even halfway through the script.
I am excited.
I'm not saying that he lied, per se. He was gay and then did marry a woman. The points that he hits in Bringing Up Boys aren't wrong, but the truth is more complicated. Firstly, he was a drag queen.
Shut up.
Named Candy.
Wait, when was he a drag queen?
In the late 70s and early 80s.
You have to have found a photo.
Yes, I did.
Oh my God.
At the bottom of this picture, it says, courtesy of the Paulk family.
You slimy little assholes. Wait, John Paulk was not an ugly drag queen. I mean, kind of, but not terrible. I thought it was going to be real. This is like a professional photo. I thought it was going to be real, like, seedy underground kind of thing, but this is like, wait a minute. Were there pageants in the 70s?
Drag pageants absolutely did exist at this time, but I have not found any record of him competing in them. That's not to say he didn't, just I haven't found record of it. I point out that this picture says courtesy of the Paulk family at the bottom, not just because it's a little bit funny, but his family was really accepting of him. When he lived as an out gay man for almost a decade, his family was supportive. They met partners, they kept pictures of him in drag enough, right? In fact, when he started down the ex-gay path, they were concerned for him.
Was his family religious?
No, not really, not particularly. Definitely not this kind of religious. Which then I think begs the question, how did he get started down that ex-gay path? So while he didn't grow up particularly religious, he made some good Christian friends at a particularly vulnerable time. And they told him, God doesn't hate you because you're gay. That was earth-shattering to him. They also said God hates homosexuality, so it's like the love the sinner, hate the sin kind of approach.
You're doing such a good job with your air quotes.
Thank you. It does sound like he was going through a lot at this point. He was pretty unstable and really depressed. He did have a growing alcohol problem, frequently blacking out. He tells a story near the end of his time in the gay lifestyle where he had a hookup, blacked out, and had all of his valuables stolen away from him. One night, he was at a club in drag, on acid, and he heard a voice from above. He says, like, time froze, and he felt this connection. He heard this voice, and it said, give your life back to me, and I'll take you away from all of this.
Yeah. I think a lot of people on acid have heard that voice.
Yeah, that's my reaction, too. To this day, he stands by that account, although he now understands it to mean God taking away from alcoholism and not homosexuality.
Okay.
Not to be too much of a dick about it, but, like, it was absolutely the acid, right?
Uh-huh.
After that night, he threw away all of his drag and then quickly joined a group called Love in Action, which is still around. It's now called Restoration Path, and I hate them. He joined their year-long residency program, which is 12 men living in a house trying not to be gay anymore, which sounds so gay.
This sounds like a terrible reality show pitch.
Yes. His mom called it a cult.
Yeah.
And she was right to do so. We must now go on a brief tangent about Love in Action, because they are truly evil. They're founded in 1973, an important year in this story, and the history is soaked in blood. One of the founders' best friends died by suicide after failing to become straight. The state of Tennessee went after one of the programs for allegations of child abuse and running unlicensed mental care facilities. In 2006, they stopped prescribing medications. A different way of saying that is, up until 2006, they were prescribing medications!
2006?
Yes! The lawsuit was dropped because Love in Action said that they didn't need oversight because they weren't doing anything therapeutic. And I don't think they were doing anything therapeutic, like technically, but they were trying to practice medicine, or torture, which is just badly practice medicine. This is the same thing that we see with biblical counselors, right? Since you're not technically doing therapy, you don't need any oversight, and therefore you're not accountable to anybody. And therefore you can do whatever the fuck you want to kids. Torture them, prescribe them medication. I don't care. Tennessee dropped the suit, and then Love in Action countersued for discrimination. And it was settled out of court, so we don't know all of the terms, but we know that it was very favorable to Love in Action. John Smid, former director, stated, quote, "I wanted to define success that people were finding freedom from homosexuality. But I knew that wasn't happening, and we saw it as their fault." So this is the conversion therapy that John Paulk went through. And it was high control, as these things tend to be. No TV, no outside association, no sexual activity, obviously. It was a cult. Mm-hmm. John Paulk mentioned it in one of the clips that we watched, but he moved across the country. He left his family, left his friends, left his life to come join this program. And so after he completed the year-long program, he didn't have a whole lot else going on in his life. So he stayed with the program. He entered leadership training. Love in Action was under the umbrella of an organization we've talked about called Exodus International. Exodus International is like the umbrella organization for conversion therapy, especially in evangelical spaces. At its peak, it had over 250, big air quotes, ministries in North America and was active in 17 other countries. John Paulk would later become chairman of the board for Exodus International.
Oh my God.
That story for Mr. Pease, it didn't ever really die. And it slowly led John Paulk from getting removed from his roles at Focus on the Family and Love One Out and Exodus International. But only kind of. After this incident, he spoke on the Bringing Up Boys series, for instance. He was still on the board for Exodus International, although he was no longer the chairman of the board.
How much trouble do you think he got in behind the scenes with Dobby?
Oh, we have tea about it.
Okay.
Dobson brought John Paulk to his office and made him explain in detail the entire event and kept pressing him, "Were you there to cruise for gay sex?" Now, like I said, he didn't get fired from Focus on the Family, but it kept following him. So after a couple of years, he resigned himself. And this, unfortunately, was pretty good PR for Focus on the Family. They got to cast themselves as the one who kept giving second chances. They got to say, "God forgives, we're all sinners," and get sympathy from it, while also actively being kind of shitty to him and his family. One person actually recounts Dobson as saying, "How can we do that again next year?" After the story would not die and kept following him around, John Paulk eventually resigned in disgrace, and then moved his family from Colorado Springs to Oregon. There he generally stayed out of the limelight for a while. He and his definitely not a lesbian wife started a catering company and did small spots on local Portland TV, but nothing crazy. But then in 2013, he made two big announcements at the same time. One, he announced that his marriage had ended. And he also released a formal apology, parts of which Brooke is going to read to you now.
For the better part of 10 years, I was an advocate and spokesman for what's known as the ex-gay movement, where we declared that sexual orientation could be changed through a close-knit relationship with God, intensive therapy, and strong determination. At the time, I truly believed that it would happen. And while many things in my life did change as a Christian, my sexual orientation did not. So in 2003, I left the public ministry. So 2 years after this thing we watched, I left the public ministry and gave up my role as spokesman for the ex-gay movement. I began a new journey. In the decades since, my beliefs have changed. Today, I do not consider myself ex-gay, and I no longer support or promote the movement. Hell yeah. Please allow me to be clear. I do not believe that reparative therapy changes sexual orientation. In fact, it does great harm to many people. I know that countless people were harmed by things I said and did in the past. Parents, families, and their loved ones were negatively impacted by the notion of reparative therapy and the message of change. I am truly, truly sorry for the pain I have caused. I'm drastically limiting my public engagement until my own personal life can be settled. After that, I eagerly anticipate giving back to the community. Finally, I know there are still accounts of my ex-gay testimony out there being publicized by various groups, including 2 books that I wrote about my journey. I don't get any royalties from these publications. Really?
Mm-hmm.
And haven't since I left the ministry nearly 10 years ago. I discourage anyone from purchasing and selling these books or promoting my ex-gay story because they do not reflect who I am now or what I believe today. If you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love someone else? XOXO Candy.
That last part's not in the letter.
Wow, that's what, okay.
As far as apologies go, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Okay, so this is mostly unrelated to anything, but I didn't have anywhere else to put it. He did a brief stint on the Food Network show Cutthroat Kitchen in 2015.
I love Cutthroat Kitchen. Are you kidding me?
He placed second.
Get out of here. Isn't that the one where you get weird challenges?
I think so.
That show was so good. What the hell are you? This story is...
It's all over the place.
Do you know what this story is starting to remind me of? Is Chick Tracks.
Uh-huh. John Paulk was notably featured in the 2021 documentary Pray Away, which is on Netflix and not on Pirate Bay, which sucks because I wanted to play clips for you, which is about the fucked up history of conversion therapy.
Oh, interesting.
He also testified to the Oregon legislature in support of banning conversion therapy. So, in terms of trying to do the right things to right your past wrongs, I think he's given it a real shot. And just this year, he was the central focus of a limited series podcast called Atonement, the John Paulk Story. It is from Atonement that we get this clip, for instance, of John Paulk reflecting on the Bringing Up Boys clip that we watched earlier.
Oh, cool.
There's a video from 2001. I'm on stage at a book launch at the peak of my ex-gay career, working for the organization Focus on the Family. I'm walking up and down the stage in my gray suit. No notes, just speaking into the microphone. And there's a moment where I say,
I was seduced into homosexuality.
that is a lie. I was not seduced into homosexuality. That's a lie. This was my response to the footage, the first time I saw it more than 20 years later. Do you know, in my knowledge, I had never said that. Total lie.
You don't remember saying it? To see yourself saying it, I mean, is a surprise.
There's nothing true about it. That makes it sound like someone seduced me into homosexuality. That didn't happen at all. That was a very right-wing thing that I was saying there, to appease people and to put fear in them. That's exactly what it was for. I was paraded in front of all the luminaries that would come to Focus on the Family. Ministry leaders, pastors in high places, donors. I felt like I was being marched into a room like a wind-up soldier to tell my story for financial reasons.
Did Dobby ever respond to anything like this when people would do this?
Well, it came out in February of this year, so Dobson was well and truly in the ground by then. John Paulk is a complicated figure.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, part of me is still very angry at him. He was the figurehead of fucking conversion therapy. He knew it didn't work. He had people telling him of the harm that he was doing while he was doing it, and he actively chose to ignore it. It was supremely selfish, and the harm that he caused is truly incalculable. He's also a victim in many ways. Hating him feels like misplaced anger at people who really deserve it, like James Dobson, who is the real villain of this story. Dobson took vulnerable queer people and tokenized them. John Paulk was one of the good ones who got paraded around. Changing his behavior and marrying a woman was good, but his real appeal was providing a narrative counterweight to the deranged homosexual activist who said such outrageous things like torturing kids is bad, and people deserve to live with dignity, and James Dobson is a bigot. And the care that Dobson had for John Paulk and his family was so shallow. As soon as he stopped being an easy story, and as soon as he stopped bringing the money in, he was happy to discard him. John Paulk is not without agency or responsibility. He has also meaningfully tried to atone for his past transgressions. I don't know where that leaves him, and I don't know where that leaves me. It's also not up to me to tell you if you should forgive him or not. But it does feel like my job to help us keep our eyes on the prize, hating James Dobson. And if he wants to take part in that project, I'm happy to share a grudge together.
I don't hate John Paulk as much as I expected to by the end of this.
It's a complicated story.
It's very complicated. I feel like this is someone who was in... I don't... Like, a lot of times when these figures come along, I'm like, oh, and then they got a ton of money and they got fame. And
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't quite feel like that to me. This feels like desperation. Yes. And needing, like, the safety of focus on the family, the safety of... a perceived safety of James Dobson and the church and all of this, right? Mm-hmm. And then to just have it all sort of like to be slapped in the face with it. I mean, that is a humiliation ritual that he was doing, right?
Yeah.
You can tell as soon as he said seduced into homosexuality, I was like, that's not a thing people say. That's a thing Dobson says, right? Mm-hmm. So he was like trained, you know? This is someone who seems probably highly influential. Highly easy to influence.
Yes.
Right. And, right. Because living in the conversion house and all this stuff, right. Like easy to manipulate. I think Dobson was probably pretty good at spotting those people. Absolutely. So it wasn't just that he was a good gay. He was a plastic.
An easy mark.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if this is going to be controversial, but I actually feel kind of like a swell of empathy for this man.
That's fine.
And I kind of want to talk to him.
I mean, I could reach out to him.
Yeah.
I don't hate him. When I was coming out, I don't think anyone referred me to his story specifically, but a number of people really pushed for me to go to some kind of reparative conversion therapy, especially with Exodus International. And so for me, right, that is such a humiliating and insulting and painful experience. Thankfully, it wasn't my parents or anyone who had like real authority in my life trying to push me in that direction, but it was people pretty close to me. And so my feelings about those experiences and my feelings about John Paulk are so intertwined. I struggle to feel empathy for him, but I think I can get to sympathy for sure.
Yeah.
Atonement is a really good show, and if you are interested in more of this story, I recommend it. But it is not hosted by John Paulk. He is not the person who gets to tell the story. He tells his story, but it's produced and kind of hosted by a journalist named Kate Holland, who I think does an incredible job. She does not let him off the hook for his explanations. I don't think he's like purposely trying to be like shady or slimy. I think his aversion sometimes to taking responsibility is pretty human reaction, but she holds him to account. But she also interviews other people in his life, friends, family, and some of his current set of friends who are all older gay men describe him as kind of gullible. So you're right, I do think he was pretty manipulable, and Dobson, who was a predator to be very clear, was able to suss those things out and tell who could be influenced in these ways.
What do you think happened though for him, that he had this supportive family and they weren't these uber Christians, that he felt so desperate, like he needed this so much?
I mean, you pointed this out. I think the cultural time was hard, late 80s, early 90s. And I don't know all of the details, but it does seem that this was a really painful time in his life for other reasons, right? Rocky relationships, alcoholism, and other substance use. And so I think between that and kind of the cultural pressures, and especially how ascendant evangelicalism was at this time, I think he conflated the difficult moment in this time in his life to being openly gay.
This sounds like someone who was really, really looking for community, like on this kind of very deep level, like, which I'm curious about why and where that came from. But it's like first maybe in the gay community, then in this like conversion recovery community, then focus on the family and the church community, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine if he's sober now, which I'm sure he is, that
Yes.
he's probably deeply involved in his like recovery community.
He doesn't seem to have a lot of close friends, which I do feel bad for him for that. Again, I don't hate him. My feelings are really complicated. I do hate James Dobson.
What happened to his ex-wife?
Unclear.
Is she still in the church? Do we know?
I believe so.
Does he talk about her?
Not really. My understanding is that she's still in the church and still pretty mad at him.
Wow, this story is really interesting.
Part of the reason that I wanted to talk about this story on the podcast is I described the Bringing Up Boys version of a story as true but not honest. And I think when we get into the honesty of it, the real messy humanity underneath, it's so much more interesting and also really illuminating about what these experiences are like, how these systems operate, especially like sociopolitically, and the fact that the real villain, James Dobson, did nothing but profit from this.
My my therapist brain is like on fire right now because I really want to know, outside of homosexuality, what that does to a person's identity, right? Not just their sexual identity, but just their whole sense of who they are as a person. He clearly is someone who lives with so much shame in one direction or the other, right? Like the amount of shame he's, if it's authentic, that he's expressing now is like equal weight-wise to the shame he was expressing about being a homosexual, right? Yes. This is someone who's just like just drowning in shame. And I want to know, I don't think it has anything to do with homosexuality. I want to know like what that is. Fascinating. I have conflicting feelings about John Paulk, but guess who I don't have conflicting feelings about? Ted Bundy.
I mean, fair. Okay, so I know I said the thing to end the episode, but there is one more story that I have to share with you.
No, I want to hear it.
There is another speaker in this Bringing Up Boys tape, another former homosexual. His name is Mike Haley, and he's introduced as the youth and gender analyst at Focus on the Family, which is also a fake title. Mike's story is honestly pretty unremarkable as far as ex-gay stories go. He had a critical dad, he got molested, he was unhappy with being gay, and then he found Jesus, and now he's married to a woman, and they have kids. Fabulous. I couldn't find any trace of Mike Haley after this. He left Focus on the Family for other ministries at one point, and he wrote this book, 101 Frequently Asked Questions About Homosexuality. But after like 2007, he disappears. There's one other thing about him, though, that I did find. Brooke, do you know about the TV show Will and Grace?
Yes.
What? Tell the children about Will and Grace.
Will and Grace was on in the late 90s, early aughts.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first, I believe, the first show that like featured and starred like openly gay characters. Will was gay. Grace was his best friend. By today's standards, it's very heteronormative in a lot of ways. I mean, Will was gay, but it was like, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they were besties and they were in New York and they both had fabulous apartments.
In the show, there's a character named Jack who is played by
Sean Hayes.
Thank you. At one point in an episode debuting in the year 2000, Jack joins an ex-gay program to try to sleep with its leader, who was played by Neil Patrick Harris.
Amazing.
Mike Haley was so outraged about this episode that he wrote a letter to the story editor of the show. I'm going to read it, and Brooke is going to read the response. This is from Mike Haley. Dear Mr. Kinley, I am writing to request a meeting with you regarding a recent episode of Will and Grace. The show in question grossly misrepresented thousands of individuals struggling to come out of homosexuality, As a former gay man and now a national spokesman and expert on homosexuality and youth issues for Focus on the Family, one of the country's largest organizations who, among other things, assists gays and lesbians who desire to be heterosexual, I know firsthand how frustrating and painful it is to be mocked by those who haven't taken the time to find out what this process is all about. I'm specifically talking about the references in the show to former homosexuals, those wrestling with their sexual identity as freaks, self-loathing closet cases, morally wrong, and members of cults. Nowhere in this episode are we portrayed as honest men and women seeking help. You may vehemently disagree with this position, but I'd at least like the opportunity to sit down and talk with you about it. Our conversation may not change your mind about the possibility of coming out of homosexuality, but at the very least, it will put a real face behind the caricature you depicted on primetime TV. And in the end, I hope it will encourage you to think twice before ridiculing the belief systems of those who differ from you. With that in mind, please respectfully consider my request. I can be reached at redacted. Thank you sincerely, Mike Haley. And now Brooke will read the response.
I received your letter dated June 9 and was very interested in your point of view. The issues you raised are the very same ones that we on the Will and Grace writing staff debate on a daily basis. Our decision to present the story of the ex-gay ministry was solely in the interest of creating the most comedic episode possible. And it was certainly not our intention to offend you in any way. But come on, Mike. Even you've got to admit that fags trying to pretend they're straight is pretty darn funny. Is this real?
Yes!
Oh my God. In response to your request for a meeting, well, I think I can read between the lines on that one. I'm about 6'1", brown hair, green eyes, and I'm into rollerblading, baking cookies, and cleaning up afterwards. My dislikes include game playing, negative attitudes, and condoms. If any of this interests you, I can be found every Sunday at the Brunch and Beer Bust at the Mother Lode in West Hollywood. I do hope you show because, like you, I am an expert on homosexuality. And in my expert opinion, this hard-to-get thing you're playing is hot, hot, hot. That is incredible. That's so good. Come on, Mike.
That's all I got. That's the episode.
That was way more fun than I expected it to be and way more interesting. So good job. I love the writers of Will and Grace. I have complicated feelings about James Paulk. I hate this guy, Mike whatever.
Mike Haley.
But most of all, my true deepest hate is for you, James Dobson.
A huge thank you to all of our patrons who make the show possible. If you want to join them, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/IHateJamesDobson for some behind the scenes, some bonus content, a lot of pictures of my cats, live streams, and so much more. And a huge thank you to those certified haters out there. Thank you to Aaron H., Ben, Betsy C., Brenda, aka Wrong Brenda, Bunny with a Switchblade, Kara T., Kaylee Ann, Cardamon, Chad S., Crystalline, Des, Drew, L, Jerry L, Hannah B, Hannah L, Helly R, Jamie B, Jared B, Jen F, Jenna KD, Jennifer A, Joanna, Julie Beth of Tarth, Cami, Carissa, Katie M, Christopher W, Lindsay, Lindsay D, Lyra S, Mara N, Margaret H, Megan, Melody B, Melody S, MJ Russell 221B, Nate is Great 148, Peter H, Rachel H, Ravio 717, Sawyer N, Sean L, Spruce, Stacy, our friends over at the Worst of All Possible Worlds, Timothy D.N., Tora W., Tyler M., Unwritten Page, and Ray. You all are amazing. Happy Pride, everybody!
Yay!
I Hate James Dobson is a product of Red House Media and is a labor of love, spite, written, recorded, edited, and produced by me, Jake. I'm honored to be joined on this journey by my amazing co-host, Brooke. If you're enjoying the show, please consider rating and reviewing it. And if you want to connect with us more, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/IHateJamesDobson. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Reddit, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Facebook at I Hate James Dobson. You can email us at IHateJamesDobson@gmail.com. We have merch available at IHateJamesDobson.printful.me, or, if all of that's too much, simply go to IHateJamesDobson.com to find everything about the show. Our theme music is by Moonbase, and the song is called Trendsetter. Special thanks, as always, to Drew, Lindsay, DJ, Jack, Gary, and Karina. And thank you, reader, for enjoying our show. Welcome to I Hate James Dobson, a podcast that just got a whole lot gayer.
Yay! Oh, good. I just got so happy.